There's a particular kind of internal chaos that comes from living without anchor points, floating through days without rhythm or routine, feeling scattered across a dozen different demands, never quite landing anywhere long enough to feel truly steady or present in your own life. What most people don't realize about this scattered feeling is that it's not about being busy or having too much to do. It's about lacking the simple, consistent practices that create internal stability. You wake up and immediately get pulled into the urgency of everything that needs attention. You move through your day, reacting to whatever demands the loudest response. You go to sleep, feeling like you've been swept along by life rather than consciously participating in it. Modern life actively works against groundedness. You're constantly connected to information, stimulation, and other people's energy through devices that never rest. You live in environments designed for productivity rather than presence. You're encouraged to optimize, multitask, and stay constantly available rather than create the spaces of quiet consistency that allow your nervous system to settle and your spirit to feel at home. This constant state of responsiveness, always adapting to external demands rather than moving from your own center, gradually disconnects you from your internal compass. You stop knowing what you actually need because you're always focused on what others need from you. You lose touch with your natural rhythms because you're living according to schedules imposed from outside. Your days feel like they're happening to you rather than emerging from conscious choices you're making moment by moment. The hidden cost of this untethered way of living extends into every aspect of your well-being. When you lack grounding practices, stress accumulates in your system with nowhere to discharge. Small irritations compound into larger overwhelm because there's no regular reset, no reliable return to center. Sleep becomes less restorative because your nervous system never fully settles. Even positive experiences feel fleeting because you're not present enough to fully receive them. This disconnection from stability also affects your decision-making capacity. When you're constantly scattered, you make choices from reactive states rather than from clear intention. You say yes to things that don't align with your values because you haven't created space to check in with what you actually want. You find yourself living according to other people's priorities because you haven't established the consistent self-connection that reveals your own. Over time, this creates a subtle but persistent anxiety, not necessarily about anything specific, but a general sense of being unmoored, of floating without foundation. You might feel successful in external ways, while internally feeling like you're barely keeping up, like you're performing your life rather than living it. There's a hunger for something you can't quite name, the feeling of being truly at home in your own experience. There's an ancient understanding that modern culture has largely forgotten. Stability doesn't come from controlling external circumstances, but from cultivating internal consistency. Across cultures and throughout history, humans have recognized that certain simple, repeated practices create the foundation for everything else. Not because they're complicated or time-consuming, but because they establish rhythm, intention, and connection to what matters most beneath the surface noise of daily demands. These grounding practices work not through magic, but through the basic principle that what you do consistently shapes who you become. When you repeatedly return to moments of presence, your capacity for presence grows. When you regularly check in with your body, you develop sensitivity to its signals. When you consistently create space for quiet, you remember the part of yourself that exists beneath mental noise and emotional reactivity. The power of daily ritual lies not in any specific practice, but in the act of choosing consistently, to prioritize your own centering over the endless pull of external demands. It's a daily declaration that your well-being matters, that your connection to yourself is worth protecting, that you deserve to move through life from a place of grounded intention rather than scattered reaction. The practice doesn't need to be complicated or time-consuming. It could be as simple as sitting quietly for 5 minutes each morning before checking your phone, feeling your breath, and setting an intention for the day, or taking 3 conscious breaths before meals, creating a moment of pause and gratitude, or spending a few minutes before bed, writing down 3 things that grounded you during the day, creating connection between your experiences and your awareness of them. What matters more than the specific ritual is the consistency, the daily return to something that connects you with your center. Your nervous system learns to anticipate these moments of settling, creating islands of stability that influence everything else. Your body begins to trust that it will have opportunities to rest and reset, which allows it to be more resilient during challenging periods. The key is starting smaller than feels meaningful and maintaining it longer than feels necessary. Choose something so simple that you can't fail at it, so brief that you can't talk yourself out of it, so gentle that it feels nourishing rather than demanding. The goal isn't to have a perfect practice, but to establish the pattern of regularly returning to yourself with intention and care. Notice what happens in your body when you create these consistent moments of presence. Notice how your breathing changes when you give it conscious attention. Notice how your mental noise settles when you create space that's not filled with input or output. Notice how different you feel when you begin your day with intention rather than immediately responding to external demands. As this practice establishes itself, you'll start to notice its effects extending beyond the specific moments of ritual. Decisions become clearer because you're more connected to your own values and desires. Stress feels more manageable because you have reliable ways to return to center. Relationships improve because you're bringing a more grounded, present version of yourself to interactions with others. You begin to feel like you're living your life from the inside out rather than the outside in. Instead of being constantly shaped by whatever demands the most attention, you start moving from your own center, responding to life from a place of stability rather than reactivity. The scattered feeling that once defined your days is replaced by a sense of being anchored in something reliable and nourishing. This isn't about creating another item on your to-do list or another way to optimize your life. It's about remembering that you deserve to feel at home in your own experience, to move through your days with intention rather than just momentum. It's about reclaiming the simple human birthright of feeling grounded, present, and connected to what matters most beneath all the surface noise of modern life. The ritual itself becomes a form of self-respect, a daily acknowledgement that your well-being is worth a few minutes of consistent attention. And in that consistency, you discover something profound. Stability was never about controlling your circumstances, but about cultivating an unshakable connection to the part of yourself that remains steady regardless of what's happening around you. So, if something in this message resonates with your own longing for groundedness, leave a comment with the word steady. Let it be a commitment to yourself that you're ready to establish the simple, consistent practices that create internal stability. And if these words feel like an invitation you've been waiting for, subscribe. There's more here for you, not complex systems or demanding routines, but gentle reminders of the simple practices that allow you to feel truly at home in your own life, grounded in what matters most.